So what's going on here? We'll have some more details shortly, but basically the thing that has come out is to do with this alleged orgy that he had or didn't have, we don't know, on what is called Epstein Island. That's the biggest single thing. There are other things also in the 1,000 pages of court documents, not all of them about Andrew. He is named multiple times. What do you make of this, Chloe? It's so seedy, isn't it?
It's pretty grim. I mean, the thing is, I don't think anyone's learning anything that they didn't already know or imagine. The thing is, I understand that they're a family, the royal family, and I, I'm a traditionalist and I am a fan of theirs, and I like what they represent and what they do for our country. But the optics aren't good to continue to be seen out and about with Prince Andrew. Behind closed doors, absolutely, family unit, that's fine. But out in public, if I was King Charles, I should say, if I was King Charles, I would be stepping way back from him now.
Well, there's a couple of things, because he's got the lodge. He's at the Royal Lodge in Windsor. They could take that away, and apparently he's worried that they will. He's also, and it does seem to be flaunting this horse. The whole time we're seeing him pictured on a horse, laughing. I don't know whether they should allow that. Could they stop that, James?
I think, as you say, there's family versus institution. And I think the problem with the revelations, again, is that this isn't somebody who he saw on occasion. 69 times he's mentioned. And then also we're talking about, as you say, it's all very seedy. And then, of course, we have the interview that he did with Emily Maitlis, which was, until the recent interview with Baroness Mone, was arguably the worst and most excoriating interview done of an individual who tried to clear their names, and it just didn't happen. So I think there are all these things, and you're right. Being associated with this is wrong. I think we have to move him away further from public life, because even in private life, we see him walking to church at Christmas time. No thanks, don't need those in the pictures going around the world. So the horse, stop the horse, stop the house. Let's
just go through this. It's quite complicated. So I just want to take you through it about what's being said and why this is a story 2 days running. So obviously this morning we wake up and we've got, let's just have a look. The front pages are just pretty awful for Andrew, and we'll focus here on one particular person whose name is Joanna Schoberg, who was 20 when the allegations surfaced, hairdresser in Florida, now age 43. So age 20, it was claimed that Andrew took his own spitting image puppet and used the hand of the puppet to touch her breast. She's making those allegations. That's in these papers. That's why we're hearing about them now. But there's a bit of a puzzle here, isn't there? There's so much in here, nearly 1,000 pages. It's the equivalent of a big book, all right? So yesterday we said, oh, there's nothing new. Is Andrew off the hook? Today it's different, because people have done the searches of the documents and they've seen these orgy claims. And this is what we just need to look at. What is being claimed here? So we now think he's mentioned 69 times in these documents. And the deposition from Virginia Giuffre here, known as Jane Doe 3, is the one where you get this claim that she had sex with him when she was 17, and there was then an orgy with numerous other underaged girls. This is the key sentence, that's the key word that Andrew was involved in, and it happened on the paedophile's island. So that made it, if it happened, extremely deliberate. And then we think, well, what does Andrew say about it? And of course we go back, don't we, as James says, the Maitlis interview. He hasn't got any answers.
I've never really felt the need to go and party.
Am I right in thinking you threw a birthday party for Epstein's girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, at Sandringham?
No, it was a shooting weekend.
A shooting weekend?
Just a straightforward shooting weekend.
Why? Why were you staying with a convicted sex offender?
Right, because this was serious, and I felt that doing it over the telephone was the chicken's way of doing it. I had to go and see him and talk to him. Oh, in 2010, there certainly wasn't a party to celebrate his release in December, because it was a small dinner party. There were only 8 or 10 of us, I think, at the dinner.
But you were staying at the house of a convicted sex offender.
It was a convenient place to stay, and I admit fully that my judgment was probably coloured by my tendency to be too honourable.
Okay. And your strengths?
But that definitely wasn't you getting a foot massage from a Russian girl in Jeffrey Epstein's house.
No.
Well, okay, there was the greatest hits with some little additions in there. And that was obviously his defence, and it's not a defence. That's the point, Chloe. You were laughing during that. I mean, some of the...
It's just so uncomfortable. It makes my hands sweat.
Awful. So now we've got an allegation of an orgy, and there's no point even trying to go to Andrew to find out his response, because even if he were to give another interview, we know it would be catastrophic. So he's almost, it's the thing you go into bat without a cricket bat.
It is absolutely astonishing, and I suppose if somebody thinks that a shooting weekend isn't a party, if somebody thinks that having 8 or 10 people round isn't kind of some event, if somebody thinks that, I mean, for example, would you stay after somebody's been convicted and you're in the public eye, would you? No.
But then,
so there are just
so
so
out
many
of all
things
this,
wrong with
James, is the question, should Charles now take decisive action? And basically we're talking about hiding him away now.
I think that is the only option, because he has become so toxic, and there is clearly a denial or almost an entitled position that he fails, and he has taken this view that he was prepared to take that entitlement onto our national airways, make it worse, put it centre stage, and now to have that as the judgment every single time new revelations come out. 69 times mentioned. There is no smoke without fire. This taints the royal family, the institution, with his conduct.
Okay, these are they're new in the sense that we don't. I hadn't heard the orgy claim before. Obviously, they go back 20 years. Kath in Cheshire, hi.
Yes.
Well, do you think Charles should now basically, I mean, it is a case of putting him in a room and closing the shutters, isn't it? That is that sort of idea.
Well, my attitude is that other men of Andy's age have taken early retirement by now, so he should retire from public life. But I'm quite annoyed at the way these girls are portrayed as victims and the word little girl used, because a little girl is somebody about 2 in a pushchair.
No one said the word little girl, Kath. No one's used the phrase. No one's used the phrase little girl.
No, you haven't, but it's in the papers all the time. And those girls, the one who's most famous, I've heard that refer to that. And would other men, like to have to sell your house to pay compensation for an encounter, a woman, for an encounter, or girl, for an encounter you had about 20 years ago? I think
that's such an interesting question, because firstly, he says he didn't meet her, so I don't know why there's a photo of them together.
He led such a lifestyle that she probably didn't make such an impact on him. It's like the rock stars who've had hundreds
Chloe
of
wants to answer this. Chloe.
I question why you think that it's acceptable that a member of our royal family was staying in the house of a convicted paedophile. I mean...
Well, let's start with that, Kath.
That is acceptable, but you don't. He doesn't know all that. It's when you might have stayed at somebody's house or been a friend of someone, and then they get into trouble years later.
Kath, this was after his conviction. It was after his conviction, so he certainly knew.
Yes, but it doesn't mean that he was involved to that extent. But again, I just want to say about those girls, because when I compare my drab little life I had when I was a teenager, going on the bus in the rain and in the dark, and how they've been floating off to tropical islands and having this whale of a time and just whistled in for a bit of whatever, I really am angry.
Kath, can I ask you a question though, Kath?
God.
Really
because there's a real problem here that you're saying that there's no blame here. There's an individual who is a billionaire.
I did not say that.
Kath, hang on a second. There is a billionaire who is using his influence and his money to attract people to come and have that lifestyle and then force them into doing things that they shouldn't be forced into doing. How on earth, in any shape or form on this planet, can that be acceptable?
Well, you could look at it that if that happened to a girl once, as soon as she got the opportunity, she would get away. She would not follow him round the world. She would not go back for second helpings and 10th helpings
I-
and just lazing around.
Kath, I'm a
I'm
little bit
very angry.
uncomfortable. Listen, thank you. Kath rang up and said, well, the girls are part of this. They were too young to be consenting to any of that. We can speak to Billy in South Ayrshire on this now. Billy, do you think Charles needs to lock him in a dark room, basically?
Good morning, all. Yeah, however he does it, he needs to just cut all ties.
Well, I think he thinks he's done that, but the trouble is Andrew's rollicking around on this horse every day, being photographed by the Daily Mail laughing. So we're sort of seeing him. Now, maybe it's cruel to say you can't ride the horse anymore.
Yeah, I see what you mean, but if the media keep stirring up things, then it's just going to rile folk, if you know what I mean.
In the defence of Andrew, you could say allegations of sexual crime or misconduct are very easily made and they're very hard to disprove. So he's now been accused of taking part in an orgy with underage girls 20 years ago. How would he ever, Billy, begin to prove it didn't happen?
Yeah, no, I see what you mean, and I'm gonna speak about something else because it's kind of relevant. I mean, people speak about clergymen, just clergymen having clergymen abusing children. Now, that is wrong, but it can't always be proved. This can't be proved. So if you have no proof, then just stop. That's what I say. If you have no proof, then just stop.
OK, Billy, thanks. Tony in Worcestershire, hi. What do you want to say, Tony? Oh, we haven't got Tony. Have we got Angela in South Shields? Our phones are broken on this crucial issue of the day.
Crucial issue.
Chloe, this is what, now, first time on the panel for Chloe, you're on.
Oh, okay, all right then. I think, no, look, I'll just echo what I said earlier. I think behind closed doors as a family, absolutely fair. I think when it comes to any kind of public appearances, which, by the way, being photographed on a horse is,
I think
he doesn't need to be visible while he's doing that.
Or driving, but then again, think about this. Whenever he drives around, he used to drive to Windsor to see his mum a lot, understandably. Now, when he's out in that massive Jeep, again, is that a public appearance when he's driving?
No, I wouldn't classify that as. I think, look, you can't get, if you're driving on a road and you get photographed that you're in public, it's going to happen. But he doesn't need to be photographed on a horse in public when we all know that there's many places he could be doing that out of the public eye. And he certainly shouldn't be walking around with the family at public events, you know, and I think behind closed doors fine, but publicly it's very bad for the royal family. This is like incredibly bad PR for them, and they've already had a hard time with it. They need to cut ties.
What about the point I made? I know there'll be people sort of shouting this at the TV, that he can't prove this allegation is untrue. It's 20 years ago. Proving you weren't in an orgy is almost an impossibility.
He was given an opportunity that most people don't normally have, which is to do an interview, and which he did, and he made things worse.
That's true.
So I think, you know, he's afforded many privileges, and I think he's also arguably afforded the privilege of being able to escape some of this because of who he is, and being able to obfuscate and have access to great lawyers and all that sort of business. And I think it's not that the king should cut off all. You know, that should be his own private decision. But the public appearances have to go. And then also the privileges have to go. So if he's privately wealthy and can afford to live in a house, fine, go and do it, pay for it yourself.
Phone calls are back up. Tony in Worcestershire. Sorry to keep you hanging on. Tony, what would you like to say?
Well, he's been an embarrassment for 40 years. He was supposed to be a Falklands hero, and that's a bit doubtful. He's also been a trade envoy, and he trashed our reputation abroad by his high-handed approach, and I think Charles should abandon him. And I think the papers should leave him alone, because the Daily Mail is always quite happy to sell their story about anybody.
That is their
I think
job.
they should abandon him, definitely.
Yeah, but Tony, we're just thinking that this abandoning him is all very well. Well, they've sort of done that already, but do they not let him at the Christmas lunch? What about, here's an example, the Christmas Day service at that little church in Balmoral. Should he be at that? Because they could argue that's a family thing.
Well, he might be allowed there, but I don't think he should be at the church service and be photographed. I think that his reputation is so bad now that it taints the king.
OK. Tony, thank you. I'm going to go to Estella in Essex. You don't agree, Estella?
Oh, good morning. I think this has been going on too long. I'm not a monarchist, believe me. I'm not a monarchist, and I have no beef with Andrew. I think he's been very conceited and he's been very stupid. But I think enough is enough. I think he's being persecuted now. Let it go. It all happened such a long time ago.
So would you have him back doing royal duties?
No, I wouldn't have him back doing royal duties, but I think just the way things are at the moment, he goes to church with his family. So what? He doesn't have to be. He doesn't ask to be photographed. It's the photographers from the newspapers that go and snap
James is shaking his head because
I'll tell you why this is wrong. I agree with you that a private family visit, but we all know that private family visit on Christmas Day is not a private family visit. It's there to make a point. It's there to say the King's going to speak to you later at 3:00 after you've had your lunch, and here he is going to church, so he's in your mind. So it is a public appearance, even though it's sort of spoofed to us as a private thing. So I think I agree with you that he shouldn't necessarily be persecuted or targeted anymore, but on this occasion, public appearance.
Thanks to Stella. Angela in South Shields, hello.
Hello.
What do you think? Should they now start hiding him, take the horse and the house?
I think he shouldn't be in public view.
Right, public view.
I think the media need to stop it. It's damaging the royal family. He's been ousted out 63 times in this thing, along with a lot of other celebrities.
Yeah, well, there's a lot more. There's a lot more on other people. We haven't mentioned the Clintons and all that, but Bill Clinton, etc. But Andrew, 69 mentions of him. Thanks, Angela. Thanks for all your calls.